Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. Today's video, we're going to have a little bit of discussion because this is something that I've come across discussing with my own gaming groups from various different, aspects of the game, both my more competitive gaming group to my more casual and friendly gaming group to my narrative gaming group as well, and along with other people online in various little group chats and stuff I'm with as well. We've sort of been having this discussion, and the discussion is, are Gatekeeper armies a good or bad thing? And so what we're going to talk about in this video is, first of all, we're going to talk about what a Gatekeeper army is exactly, what I mean by that and all that, if you're not, in with the lingo in the game and all that. If you're new to the game, explain what it is for you, and then we'll just have a little discussion. And I'd love to hear everyone else's thoughts, because this is something that has been, in my mind at least, sort of, playing whether or not I believe it is a good or bad thing for the game. And it can be good or bad for different styles of the game. Remembering that Age of Sigmar does have 3 ways to play, in open, narrative, and match play, and we can look at this question through different lenses, and maybe at that point we decide on how the game should actually work, and this can have a more broader sort of topic. But first of all, let's discuss what a Gatekeeper army is. And so, what exactly is a Gatekeeper army? A Gatekeeper army, pretty simply, is an army that requires other armies in the game or in, say, a tournament to be able to do certain things to achieve victory. So I guess the most prominent one of these at the moment is currently Gargants. Gargants are a Gatekeeper army because they require other armies in order to deal with them to be able to deal with a certain amount of damage. They need to be able to do a certain amount of damage and pretty much guarantee that you can remove 1 or 2 Gargants in your first couple of turns of the game to ensure you actually have a chance of winning. If you can't actually remove the Gargants off the objectives, or zone the Gargants out of objectives, or do certain things to stop the Gargants getting on the objectives either by killing them or zoning them out, you will surely lose to a Gargant army, because this is just what they want to do. They want to sit on objectives and they're really hard to kill. And eventually they'll just rack up enough points that you can't win. We've had other instances of these sorts of armies in the game. INF Deepkin were certainly an army. They were a heavy Alpha Strike army that did loads of mortal wounds. If you didn't have things like certain unit roles, which we refer to as screens in the game, you're in big trouble because you just couldn't deal with the damage. They'd just jump over your screens or get into your juicy stuff. Turn 1, charge you, lock you in your zone, and Bob's your uncle. And so that, is the quick summation of what a Gatekeeper army is. It requires something to have to be done. So when you're building your army list at current, for a tournament, you need to be able to deal with Gargants, because Gargants are a decent part of the meta percentage. There's not a chance you can't miss them. You could totally go in a 5-game tournament and not play Gargants, but when they are making up such massive numbers of the tournament scene at the moment, you have to plan for, I'm probably going to play a Gargant army if I do somewhat relatively well. Looking at all the stats, for which you can go to both Honest Wargamer or on the MetaWatch articles from Warhammer Community, or AOS Shorts as well on a website, does a really good job. You can find all these stats where, like, Gargants not only are performing really well, and generally going 4-1 on average, they're also just quite a popular army as well, for whatever reasons they are. And so they're at the moment gatekeeping a lot of factions and a lot of armies out the game. And I've had good discussions with friends about how we feel like maybe we can change Gargants to stop them doing these certain things, but I guess the main question is, are they a bad thing? And so the question is, are they a good thing for the game? Do these armies that stop other armies just ever having the potential to potentially go 5-0 or even 4-1 or potentially even 3-2, because the likelihood to run into a Gatekeeper army in an event, or at least in a larger event with a more mixed community, are they a bad thing? At tournaments is one issue. I would argue at tournaments maybe they are not such a bad thing in tournaments, because they don't require you to... the tournament is requiring you to build certain ways anyway to play the missions, and maybe knowing that you're going to play these certain armies, maybe that's all part of the tournament experience. But there's also, the argument the other way with this, in that shouldn't the game be putting these restrictions in, and not an army within the game put these restrictions in? So the game should be making the gatekeeping itself by forcing you to play certain ways, not the army. However, that's exactly what these armies are doing. So, like a Gargan army, you see the gatekeeping from the game's perspective is that you need to be able to control objectives, you need to be able to withstand damage, and Gargants do that. So, they're not getting around the gatekeeping of the game, and they're not actually, but then they are in turn gatekeeping other armies within the game. So, is that really a bad thing? However, in a more casual setting, I'll liken this to when Imperial Knights first came out. We had a couple of players in my local 40k community when Imperial Knights first came out, like way back when they first came out, that picked up Knights, and it was quickly sort of gathered that they weren't always a fun army to play with your sort of general mixed arms list. They really threw a spanner into the works, and Gargants have pretty much done the same sort of thing for Age of Sigmar as well. And there were just ways you couldn't play against Knights with certain armies and certain builds because they completely changed how you had to play the game. You had to have all this anti-tank. Taking a Flamer versus a Knight army was absolutely worthless when the game first came out, you know? And they were not a good thing for a casual scene. And we've seen this before where certain armies are just not fun in the casual scene, in the friendly scene where people are just playing for fun with their mates. You have two people pick up, say, a box around the time when the second edition Flesh Eater Courts book came out, and you have someone who picks up a Star Collecting Skaven box because Skaven came out at the same time, and you have the other person pick up Star Collecting Flesh Eater Courts, and that Flesh Eater Courts person is going to romp everyone in their local scene that's picked up those Star Collecting boxes because of how brutal that Terrorgeist was on, I guess, its initial drop. And this isn't good for the more casual audience because it can really lead to some feel-bads, and this, getting rid of our casual audience, leads to less players going into other modes of play like narrative or competitive because the casual gamer are the most, I guess, popular sort of gamer. And so Gargants are sort of doing the same thing. You have a friend that picks up Gargants and runs them in your Path to Glory campaign or in your friendly local, 1,000 point league or whatever, and there's not a lot that can deal with a Mega Gargant at 1,000 points. You're going to really struggle to get that thing off the table. And when you hit 2k, most people are just going to have built cool units and built different units, and it's this person with their Mega Gargants, even if they're running all 4 of the different Megas, they're probably going to go romping through that. And this is, I guess, where the main problem lies. Competitive, it's up in the air whether it's an issue, but I do believe that Gatekeeper armies cause a significant issue to the game in the casual setting because they can lead to so many feel-bads and people just actually giving up on the game. Running the Facebook groups and looking at all of those, you see this come up a lot, that people are just talking about these oppressive things that maybe in a more competitive setting people aren't worrying about, and you can always put the argument of like, well, get good, get better. That's not helpful. Like, most people don't really care. They just want to roll dice. And the fact that some of these units in the game are just so abusive of this power, and some of these armies can be so abusive in just straight out the book, can be an issue for that casual gamer and for that casual community that really does feed the rest of our community, whether that be narrative, competitive, etc. And so it's at this point where I think the real issue of them are, because if we let these Gatekeeper armies continue to be a thing and FAQs aren't brought out, I think they can do potentially more damage than good for the game, because you're going to have these people have these feel-bads, as I've said. But anyway, I've rambled enough about this topic. I would love to hear people's thoughts on what they think of Gatekeeper armies. Am I being, I guess, over-concerned? But I don't think I am. I don't personally like them in a casual setting. There are certain armies I don't like playing, or at least I will have to build towards playing in a casual setting, just because those armies can't be turned off. And so, this is the question to you. How do you feel about Gatekeeper armies? Do you think they're a good thing for the game? Do you think they're a bad thing? Do you think they're a good thing in competitive, narrative, more casual gaming, etc.? Let us know in the comments below. Well, that's the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also, drop us a comment in the video and let us know what you enjoyed about it as well. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our fine community here at Sinful Gaming, you can do so by following the link in the description of the video to our Discord server. You can come chat with me and other members. Lastly, if you'd like to help support the channel in another way, you can do so either by joining Patreon or YouTube members linked in the video's description, or by getting some merch from Teespring, also linked in the video's description. We'd like to give a shout out to everyone who helps support the channel on Patreon and YouTube members. So a special shout out to our Patreons: Christian Weir, James Soren, Chaos Spawn, AJC, Kenny Lowell, Alder Shot First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, Dynat226, Anton Nielsen, JJ Austrian, and Average Wargamer. And a shout out to our YouTube members as well: Greenroots Gaming, Kenton Young, Steve T, The Real Zealot, Chris Wallace, Turai12, Vinny, Lock Lorick, The Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Revenar, and Wolfric Nick. Lastly, a special thanks to Lady Witchfox Art, who does the amazing artwork you see on the channel. Everything here is done by her. She does an amazing job, so thank you very much. And lastly, a special shout out to Xmorphic, who does all the background work on the Discord server, keeps it running smoothly and makes it amazing, because I am terrible with computers. So thank you, Xmorphic, as well. That's it for today though, folks. Stay safe everyone, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.